Israel, we might be winning militarily, but we're losing in the media. This isn't new. We Jews have been losing the media battle for about 3,000 years. We killed God, supposedly invented the Black Plague, and spread it. We're an inferior race and all the things that anti-Semites, that is, people who hate Jews, make up. Now, according to them, Israel is deliberately wiping out journalists in Gaza and more. But I do want to show you the reality that not many people talk about regarding the journalists in Gaza, and we're going to give some examples of the poor journalists in Gaza. This is, for example, Ashraf Amra. If you see him, he's reporting there, and here he has an injured hand. Why? In September 2023, he injured his hand. So are these photos valuable for the people of Gaza? Why? Here you see them bandaging him, and here he's crying. Why are these images so valuable to Hamas? Because what Hamas will never be able to do is defeat us on the battlefield, because Israel's military superiority is very great. Let me remind you that in just 12 days, Israel defeated Iran, a major military power in the Middle East. In just 12 days, Israel removed all its military leaders and air defenses. So how will Hamas defeat Israel? The weapon they have is the media. Now, so what they do is inflate numbers and say that reporters this and hospitals that. And they start creating an entire narrative so that the media gets a bad image of Israel, and that way the world puts pressure on Israel. Because that really is a weapon that affects us. Diplomacy, politics. I'm not sure, maybe sanctions? But I want to show you a bit more about Ashraf Amrar, who is this journalist giving her a little kiss on the hand. None other than Ismail Janila, for those who don't recognize him. Ismail Janila is the leader of Hamas, one of the leaders, yes, who lived in Qatar. Israel made sure to send him a greeting in Tehran. This was a little over a year ago, if you remember, but this isn't something recent. Here you can see November 2012 receiving an award from Ismail Janila. And you might ask yourself, for what reason? Why would a terrorist organization like Hamas give you an award if you're a reporter? Is it because you're a reporter who is reporting what Hamas wants? Let me remind you that Hamas is not a democracy. It's not like you can go out on the streets of Gaza and protest against Hamas without anything happening to you. I'll explain what the March of Return is, where he was injured. There were a series of marches in 2019 and again here in September 2023. An estimated 40,000 people marched from Gaza attempting to enter Israel. What you see in the sky are gases used to disperse protests, you know? Police worldwide use this during violent protests in every country. It's used as a dispersal gas, which irritates the eyes and also the nose. So this is what they're releasing to disperse the protests. Here you can really see thousands of people. And these were just the Israeli soldiers trying to stop those thousands of people. And you wonder what would happen if those thousands of people entered Israel from Gaza. That's what we wondered in September 2023. On October 7th, we found out what happens. The worst terrorist attack recorded in modern times. They entered, kidnapped many people, and took them out alive. This is one of the iconic photos. Maybe you remember it from October 7th, which is when they lynched some soldiers here. In the video, which I won't show you because it's extremely sensitive, it's very violent. But that's why I'm not going to show it, because I want to respect YouTube's community guidelines. In that video, you can see the lynching, and you can see the journalist Ashraf Amra laughing, mocking loudly while the lynching is happening. You might ask, is that journalism, a so-called journalist entering Israel with Hamas on October 7th? Do they take part in all that madness? It's not an isolated case. Let's look at another journalist. Maybe this face looks familiar to you. He's Anas Al-Sharif, and he even appeared in Spanish media. I saw politicians in Spain saying, we condemn what they did to this poor journalist. Let me introduce the poor journalist hugging himself. With none other than Yahya Sinwar, who was the leader of Hamas in the Gaza Strip. And Israel already took care of him by giving him a brain operation. Let's admit it, it wasn't the only time. You can see him very happy, laughing, taking selfies with the entire leadership of Gaza, the entire military leadership. I'm going to show you on Telegram what he wrote on October 7th. Hours had passed since they began massacring us, and they were already kidnapping people. And this guy reports 9 hours. And the heroes are still in the country, that is in Israel, killing and capturing. In other words, kidnapping babies, kidnapping elderly women. God, God, how great you are. Heart, heart, heart. October 7, 2023. How strange it is to see journalists praising terrorists while they are carrying out the worst massacre we have ever seen documented. This is a list of Hamas operatives among the list of operatives from the northern Gaza Strip. It's here. I'll zoom in for you. Anas Yamal Mahmoud al-Sharif, nothing more or less. Here you can see a document tracking his injuries. He also appears here, so he's listed as a Hamas member. As if that weren't enough, in the phone directory of Eastern Jabalia from one of the Hamas battalions, you can see among the members to call is Anas Yamal al-Sharif. So you could call him because he was a member of this terrorist organization that has caused so much harm. I invite you to join the community, Israel High. Israel High. It's a community where you can have direct contact. We can talk on WhatsApp if you are members. And it's also a space where you can learn many topics about Judaism. You can learn Meta Hebrew or entrepreneurship classes from a Jewish perspective. From the talk I gave about Teshuvah, there are many topics we've covered. Members can access all courses on the platform, and I'm not the only instructor. There are many leaders, there are experts on all kinds of topics, and experts are also brought in from Israel and outside of Israel who give these kinds of talks. So, are you invited to join Israel High? I'll leave the link in the description for you to join. Here's a little friend of Ashraf Amra. You can see him with his injured hand. This is another journalist named Hassan Eslaya. Here you can see him dressed like a proper Gazan terrorist. The same thing happened on October 7th in the same places and scenes. And one really has to ask, how is it possible that journalists entered together with the Hamas hordes and you? On October 7th, you can see videos of Gazan journalists inside Israel in the kibbutzim while people are being killed and they're reporting from there. How did they get in together? Maybe it was coordinated. What Hamas wanted was to show it to the Arab media so that the Arab world would rise up against Israel. So that Hezbollah and Iran would join the war against Israel together, which would truly mean the end of Israel. Thanks to Hashem, that didn't happen, but I'll show you another picture of this guy, Hassan. Here, the arch-terrorist Yahya Sinwar is giving him a little kiss. Tell me, what kind of journalist deserves a kiss from one of the worst terrorists in history? Here you can see some of the poor Gazan terrorists on October 7 while they are kidnapping Israeli women. People. We're talking about the age of grandparents. You can also see a photo of another one of the so-called terrorist journalists, which was one of the top photos of the year in the New York Times. Interestingly, this one was taken by Muhammad Faik Abu Mustafa, showing that terrorists are fully coordinated with them. Another case, Muhammad Wajah, who you can see here among the rubble reporting for Yazida, but in reality he's another terrorist. Also taking part in training, explaining, and waging war against us. In fact, here you can see the same Yahya Sinwar, leader of Hamas in the Gaza Strip, hugging him. And everyone is very happy and hoping that someday they will, although they won't succeed, conquer Jerusalem. How much does a reporter have to do to get the leader of Hamas in Gaza, one of the worst terrorists in the world, one of the cruelest, giving you hugs or kisses? So you get an idea that what people in the West receive as information is not journalism. It's media jihad, since that's Hamas's only real weapon against Israel. I don't know if you knew that. The only reporters that Hamas allows are those who are affiliated with them. The information that is received on social media and by Western media comes from these same people. The hunger in Gaza, the attacked hospitals, the journalists, all of these are narratives crafted by these people. I'll give you another example. Abdelkader Saba, who you can see here reporting. This guy reported for the news outlet La Arambila. And here you can also see how he played his part in the terrorist group Hamas. This was at a time when I was in the army. There was a war during this period in 2014. And here we can see a post from this same guy taking a selfie and calling him our commander and teacher, like a guide. Do you know who this guy is? This guy is Abu Hared al-Zahar. This guy is the co-founder of Hamas, no more and no less. Here you can see another post where he calls Hero and Azadir al-Masri. He was a Hamas terrorist who blew himself up, committed suicide in a restaurant in 2001 in Jerusalem, taking the lives of 16 innocent people. He uploads the photo and calls him a hero. This is like some instructions. I didn't bring it all so as not to take up the whole screen. Report the jihadists about any suspicious movement around their locations. Point 4. He says not to transfer information to the Israeli enemy, to stick to the sources of the resistance. What is the resistance? They claim Hamas is a so-called resistance, but it's the psychopathic part of it all. Some in the West call Hamas the resistance to Israel. A resistance that rapes or kidnaps babies isn't true resistance. It's a resistance that does all those misdeeds, that commits terror, that uses its own people as human shields, that steals humanitarian aid. Is that resistance? It isn't. It's to the point that the guy even worked for Cable News Network at one point, and Cable News Network fired him. Imagine all the time Cable News Network spent airing this guy's reports. Then an organization called Honest Reporting emerged. They pressured Cable News Network with a lot of information, and Cable News Network fired him and made him rotate. About Al Jazeera. And that it started as soon as I went to school. In conversation that he was an Al Jazeera reporter. It was everywhere in the media. Which journalist who had the Israeli hostages worked for Hamas or was Israeli? The kidnapped woman said that she was trapped in the house of a reporter, so here we can see that they weren't just reporters. They are complicit in everything we saw. The kidnappings, holding people, making them suffer, and spreading false information. And this really, for Westerners, it might have been new information, but this wasn't new for the people of Gaza. The people of Gaza already knew. Here you can see a post they made about him. He was the Ministry of Labor spokesperson in Gaza, and his resume shows he worked for the Gaza government. This is another post he uploaded about his son, and he uploaded this one a little while before the massive terrorist attack they carried out against us. And he's saying that my hero and support and teacher of a person. May Allah grant you much success, my little one, in your next academic stage. I mean, for them, this is an academic stage. Dressing up as terrorists and having toy guns and attacking, that's an academic stage, please. What's the next academic stage? So, joining Hamas? And, as if that weren't enough, Dr. Ahmed Al-Yamal also kept the kidnapped Israelis in his house. One asks how terrorists can be so shameless. Thanks for letting us know. The answer is simple. That's called media jihad. There are different types, like economic jihad, which pressures certain countries to support Islam. If there are, for example, women who don't go to war, then they feed the fighters. That's taking part in jihad. And there's also jihad in the media, which is what Al Jazeera does. Al Jazeera is a purely jihadist media outlet. So if they lie, inflate numbers, or say things that really aren't accurate, they don't care, because that serves their jihadist cause. I also invite those who have just arrived to take part in our community again. Israel High even offers a course called How to Defend Israel Without Weapons. It's a course that I taught to explain how you can have arguments in debates in favor of Israel. You're invited to join the Israel High community for direct WhatsApp contact with me. And I'll leave the link in the description to add a bit of humor to this video here. I don't know if you already recognize this face, but he's one of the influencers from Gaza. His name is Mr. Fafo. He goes by Haldia Farawi on social media. Well, the curious thing is that he is also given the status of journalist. So one day he dresses as a journalist and the next day as a jihadist. Since I'm unsure if this weapon is a toy, maybe this guy is too. Mr. Fafo did a campaign a couple of months ago to raise money for a hospital in Gaza. He got millions. And Mr. Fafo disappeared, and the hospital was never built. Mr. Fafo made the deal of his life just with social media. Like people's sympathy, because people's sympathy is very useful to him. To pressure Israel to donate money to the pockets of these corrupt people. For all this is another one of the journalists in Gaza. Ismail Abu Ammar was one of the many journalists who entered along with Hamas. And this is in the kibbutz. In this video, I'm not showing it, but he's praising, almost glorifying, while you hear screams and gunshots behind him. That's their journalism. Those are poor journalists. And as if that wasn't enough, he posted about it. Our children are going to play with their heads. Just wait a few minutes. Another example, Marwan Al-Ghul. Here we see Marwan Al-Ghul giving a talk. Here you can see the logo. You may have seen it before, which is the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine is one of the many terrorist groups inside Gaza. I've shown you videos of this and him before, right? In his speech, he said that he expresses his gratitude and appreciation to his comrades for their ongoing struggle. On what planet do you find these journalists giving a speech to a terrorist organization, telling them congratulations and to keep fighting against the illusion? What is their struggle? Going and kidnapping people? Here, you can also see Marwan Al-Ghul sitting here together with the Hamas government. So we see that he is another of the so-called journalists that Gaza has, Ismail Al-Ghul, another person with the same last name, likely from the same tribe. This is one of the Hamas activity tables from their military wing, which was found on Hamas computers. And you can also see the data of this guy, Ismail Mahamis al-Ghul. Another example is Hamza al-Dahudu, a member of Hamza and the Al-Quds brigades from northern Hamas, along with Talal Mahmoud and Abul Rahman Haruki. You can see the same thing in the documentation where he appears, and I also checked the list of operatives. The same thing happened in the video, but I can't show it due to sensitivity. I want to make something clear. I don't think journalists should be deliberately stopped. Of course not, since I live in a democratic country where freedom of expression is very important. And it's important for us to know what's happening, the history and all of this. I think it's important for journalists to be involved. But you, seeing these examples, understand that they are actively members of one of the terrorist organizations, which is Hamas, which is a terrorist organization declared by other countries, not just Western ones. Some Arab countries, such as Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, Egypt, and Jordan, label Hamas as a terrorist group. They use journalists from their organization as a media weapon. So what do you expect? And I repeat, I don't think that reporters and journalists should be deliberately persecuted. Of course not. I'm not a fascist who believes that. On the other hand, there's the other side of the coin, which I want you to know about. So it's no surprise that you find these guys together with Hamas militants in the same places, in the same areas. And when someone is in a dangerous area, is there a risk if a person is with highly wanted terrorists like Hamas? You know, one of Israel's goals is to eliminate Hamas's military wing. And what if reporters are affiliated with them? And if they're with them and are part of their organization and are in the same operations, then they're exposed to those risks. So those things happen and have happened throughout history. Historically, some reporters have become victims in conflicts. But in my view, these individuals aren't truly acting as reporters. Wearing a vest labeled press. Here I show you this official document from Hamas. There's also an official document, the same version, but from Islamic Jihad and Hamas. Let me remind you that Hamas is the government of Gaza. Here you have the instructions on how to contact Al Jazeera's phone number, meaning there is a direct connection between Hamas and Al Jazeera. Because their war can't be won with tanks, since they don't have that military capability, but they do have the ability to touch the mind and the heart. To Western naivety, to those who already have this idea against Israel, and all they need is to fuel that fire that already exists against Israel. And with this media fuel, fabricate data, scenarios, and stories. As with hunger, they saw there is no hunger in Gaza despite what is shown. What images do they show? Children or elderly people with genetic diseases. All the relatives next to them, already big fat from eating so much, but they show the photo of the thin child with the genetic disease. And I ask you, if there really is all this hunger, why would they show a fake photo? Their whole narrative falls apart. But that's what these journalists have to fabricate to harm Israel. And like I said, Israel, we're losing the media war. For 3,000 years, you know that a myth has always been invented about the Jew. Jews control the economy, Jews control the media. It's one of the funniest arguments I've ever heard. Haven't you seen? It's that at the New York Times they're Jews, and at Fox News they're all Jews, and that everyone is a Jew. If that's the case, then how come so much of the international media pressure is against Israel? In fact, the media, I think, are very manipulated and very controlled precisely by this kind of narrative. You have the fake reporter who spreads this false information down to other media and channels, even NAS Daily. I don't know if you know him. He's an influencer who identifies himself as Palestinian, and he has a video talking about this topic, about how Al Jazeera manipulates the media, and how Al Jazeera says one thing in Arabic and tells something else to Western media. So, is this exactly the phenomenon? To wrap up this video, I invite you once again to take part in my Israel High community. In the description, you can look for the link and join so you can stay in touch with me. The ideas you share with me really help me put together the topics we discuss on our channel, and with that, I send you all my warmest regards. Many people have always held negative opinions about Jews, but ultimately lies are exposed. Truth will prevail, may Shem bless me. We will triumph this week, a battle that is very important for the future of Israel, and you by taking part in supporting Israel. It's a great joy for us to see people like you support us amid so much darkness. For us, the light that you project is what will truly overcome all the darkness from these people. Warm greetings and best wishes from Israel.